Sometimes good things go bad, and good people do bad things, and they get lost along the way.
What is your purpose? Maybe you've lost sight of what that purpose is. Are you serving a purpose that you shouldn't be?
Everybody has their faults. Everybody has good and bad in them. Nobody's perfect.
But faith and keeping faith, you can overcome anything.
You're never so far gone that you can't come back and try to make things right.
That's the power of God.
At the end, it really becomes a redemption story. No matter where you've been in life, no matter what you've done, it's never ever too late to make a change. It's never too late to redeem yourself. What a great message, and what a great story to give to people.
It all came about mainly because I actually used to be in the band with working in video production. I had some opportunities to move away, so that's when I left, matter of fact. But luckily, got to come back to the Cincinnati area, started True Artist Studio, and myself and matter of fact have stayed close. They were in need of some video production work for this music video. Sent me over the song with kind of an idea of how they wanted the storyline to be.
I started talking to Shane about it, and he gave me some guidance and said to get together a good script for it and send it his way. And so over the next couple months I started working on a script for it, tried to come up with some ideas for what I thought would create a compelling story.
There was just a lot of time and thought going into the storyline.
I wanted it to kind of go along with what the lyrics of the song were. He looked it over and sent it back. We made some revisions and changed some things.
And I just loved it. To be able to work on a music video that had a really strong storyline with actual characters and actors and working with locations that really fit the scenario, I definitely couldn't pass up an opportunity to work on a project like that. There was a lot of pre-production involved with a project like this because we had so many different locations to nail down. We had not only our main actors, but we also had extras that we needed to utilize. I kind of let the band take charge of getting those locations secured. Our lead male role, played by Zach Albers, he's a colleague and friend of mine. And I knew that one of his other traits was that he was an actor, and thought that he might be perfect for that role.
Well, I've known the director Shane for a long time, and he approached me and said, hey, I have a friend who's got a really, really cool project. It's a music video. And I'd never done a music video before. That was kind of something that was on my bucket list. And I took a look at the script. It was a challenging role. Playing a person that's very much not myself was very attractive to me.
I wanted to kind of get down on film the darkness, what's hidden beneath.
When I first read the script, I noticed that it was going to be sort of a dark role through most of the scenes, a lot darker than anything that I'd ever played before. But to really play something so dark, where you really have to find that within yourself, that was a really big challenge.
He had the daunting task of playing this role that, in real life, he's not that guy. So it was definitely a role that, he spent time getting into character.
If you're playing a role that's very intense and very unlike you, sometimes it can be hard to turn it on and off. So sometimes it's a lot easier to really gather that mindset and gather that mentality and try to hold it.
You could tell we're working with a true professional right here, because he would ask, okay, how soon are we going to be ready for this scene? We'd kind of give him a ballpark, about 10, 15 minutes. And then we'd see him kind of go off and do his thing to mentally prepare.
I needed time to myself to really find that place and try to gather that emotion up, the extreme anger, the extreme hurt.
He went through every emotion from being this pompous, sophisticated, high-level attorney figure to seeing him completely stressed, and we saw him battling his demons with the alcohol. We then see this restoration and this revival.
It can take a lot of preparation, and it's also very hard to snap out of.
I'm letting go.
It was just really interesting the way he could turn his emotions on and off, and the power that he was able to bring to his presentation in a role that really, there were no words. It was just him on the screen and all the rest of us, and the depth of energy, and you could really feel his pain.
Probably my favorite scene was the one where Zach was in the church with the preacher. That's where he came back to God to try to get himself right.
The most powerful scene. For me, it was when Grant was in the church, having been backslidden. That was the most grabbing to me. I remember the time in my life when I did the same thing.
The church scene at the end, the redemption scene, I know a lot of people have said that they were very, very moved and touched by that. Very humbled that I had the ability to do that for someone, to play a role well enough that people are touched by it. Every scene has its own sort of charm, whether it's a happy charm or kind of an angry charm. I'm proud of all the work that everybody put into this, quite honestly. So every scene that made the final cut really looks like it belongs and really helps to advance the story.
The fight scene, nobody saw that coming.
I know a lot of people were noticing during the fight scene when we were shooting, even when the camera came off, I was still angry. I didn't want to be approached, I didn't want to be talked to, because when you're in that frame of mind, again, it's really hard to turn off.
It was more uncomfortable than anything. But if it wasn't that intense, it wouldn't have come through as well as it did.
Fall back too far from you?
Yeah. Can we start a little bit more in the
start
center?
up here, and then
So you can push me.
yeah, then there's some room for her to fall back. Yep.
Right.
I think that was the most eye-opening scene for me, just realizing, wow, this isn't just me playing this part. You actually become the role of the person that you're pretending like you are. I caught on to the idea and felt like, okay, this is what it's like.
And Zach just really totally lit into her.
The emotion really takes over. I remember being done with that scene and feeling shaky afterwards, just because I had gotten into it so much.
And afterwards, I was like, are you okay? Are you, I didn't scare you too much, did I? I want to make sure you're okay. She's like, oh yeah.
And as I watched it, I couldn't help but be physically affected by what was going on. And I watched my son being affected by it as well. The fight scene was very disturbing. It was my first real involvement with a music video, and so I assumed there was no dialogue. And in order for these actors to convey what they had to convey, they went into character, and they had a real fight.
Everybody there kind of had goosebumps, I think. It was very uncomfortable. I think everyone played off each other very well.
I realized right then that that's not the person that I want to be. And I actually refer to that from time to time when I start to lose my cool.
Asher was a real trooper. He had to endure the fight scene along with everyone else, but being as he was a child, it was a little bit disconcerting to have him have to be a part of that. But he really handled it well and was just great throughout the whole shoot.
I met Asher at the church, the church scene where it was the praise and worship scene. And he was game for anything, which I thought was fantastic. I mean, sometimes when you work with kids, You don't know how they're going to react to saying, well, this is your family for a little while. You know, some kids don't take to that very well, but he totally understood the role. He played into it, let us hug him, you know, kiss him on the forehead, things like that, and that adds to the realism.
This music video is definitely all about location. There was so many different angles to this storyline, and the locations were extremely important to match what was going on. We shot at this old historic building in downtown Hamilton, Ohio. They just had these amazing rooms.
The Benninghoffen Estate, Butler County Historical Society, they were nice enough to let us shoot there. Just a fantastic location.
It was just so cool to go in and just walk through the house. The whole place looked very historic, lots of books, felt very much like an old lawyer office. Just upstairs of that building, we utilized one of the bedrooms where Zach had his nightmare.
That was also one of the first scenes that we shot. It was the second scene I think we shot, or the second location that we shot. Kudos to whoever came up with the idea to spray my face with water. So when I rose up out of the nightmare, it looked like my face was drenched in sweat, and the way that was shot, the first time I saw it, I thought, wow, that looks really, really cool. I think that's the thing that you take away most from that scene is the shoot up, and you see this person's face is drenched with sweat. You can tell that he just went through something crazy in that nightmare. In the grand scheme of things, it was so important to show internal struggle and internal turmoil, and just the tossing and turning. And then the way the nightmare scene itself is shot with kind of that blurry sort of filter on it. It just makes everything else that's around it so much better.
The scene where our lead, Zach Albers, is working on a case, and he tries to call his wife and she doesn't answer, and then he's battling the demons with drinking again.
Well, that scene especially where I'm doing all my work and trying to stay focused, but there's that bottle of tequila over there that keeps kind of staring at me. I got a ton of creative freedom. That's sort of the first scene that you really see the major descent, the major dilemma, should I or should I not? But to be able to have that bottle in my hand and to be able to really stare at it and really think about it, and to really finally just resign myself and say, okay, you know, whatever, I'm going over, I'm having a drink, and to be drinking straight from the bottle, it shows that this person's not in the best state in the world. What's more important to me? Is my work more important to me? Is my family more important to me? Or is this bottle in my hand more importantly to me? And to see someone that you're starting to relate to make that poor decision, it affects you. So I'm glad that we kind of extended that out. And I'm glad that we let people see, again, just one more chapter of this person's struggle.
We also shot at the historic Butler County Courthouse in Hamilton. The opening scenes are there. You can see Zach coming down the steps and walking out in front of the courthouse.
The sequence of those scenes are some of the last scenes that we actually shot. Originally in the script, it called for me kicking a homeless person. I found was going to be interesting. I've never kicked someone on camera before.
The most surprising and powerful scene to me was when it zoomed in on the bum and he turned around and it was our main character.
The scene with the homeless guy was very powerful. It's kind of a prophetic sort of dream thing where you realize that you're now the person who's down on his luck, and you're the person who's kind of leading a miserable life.
When he looks up and he's wearing my shirt, the homeless guy's shirt, and sees himself as the homeless guy, I think that was pretty good.
That's not only good writing, but it's something that sticks in the minds of people.
I was the homeless man, and I tried to get myself ready for whatever might be involved in it. I'm the guy that asks for some money and he turns me down and he's kind of rude to me. The character he played, he stayed very much within the character during the filming. And if that was my only impression of him, I might have thought he was the meanest guy in the world. He's very believable.
Keith Mecklem, who played the homeless guy, he'd made up this sign that he held up that said something like, "Please help, vet, God bless."
And my sign that I had was inspired by an actual sign I saw somebody holding. It was fun to get a chance to play a role and act a little bit and just see how video is made. Brought my son along just so we can see how it's done.
Really, the thing that I remember about that the most is when I'm pulling in and out in the Corvette, We had to drive around the block about 1,000 times just to get it right. It's a very stiff car. It's not like these modern sort of cars that basically do the driving for you. You have to drive that car.
So everybody's been asking me, like, you know, where do you get all these cars and stuff from?
Just like out of fields and barns and stuff like that, and I'd fix them up. So like anything that's I've got started off like not so good. Yeah. I had a band with Mike. We played together, and he knew I had like some cars and some, you know, a pretty big spread and stuff like that. He just asked if I would lend a hand and let him use the property and cars or whatever. So I was like, sure, sounds like fun. Now, Zach had picked this car out. He wanted to drive this car. You know, that's like originally he was the one that said he wanted to drive it. So he was just gonna like, I thought he was gonna back it up and turn around the other direction. He's like, I'll just take it around the block. Well, he's going like 15 or 20 minutes. It's like, well, I'm like, where's he at? He comes back with a bag of hamburgers or tacos or something, a Mountain Dew. I don't even know what he was doing. Had a couple girls with him. No, I'm making that up. That is a true story about him going the long way around the block. He was gone for a long time.
The driving scenes were really fun and really rewarding. Once I learned how to drive a '69 Corvette, which is coming from my Saturn View and then hopping into a '69 Vet, is kind of a change of pace. That was a huge blast. I'm kind of a speed demon. So what they may or may not know is that when I was alone on the country roads doing that GoPro, I figured out that I could do 103.
There's your 100.
Going down a road without killing myself. It was good. I looked like I had the big aviators on. It looked like I belonged in that car. So maybe in the future I'll treat myself to my own '69 Corvette.
The plan was to use a '56 Chevy that I have, and Zach, he comes up and he's like, oh, I'm not really seeing this character driving this car, you know. And he goes in the barn and finds the Corvette, and he's like, this is the car that the character should be driving.
The kind of car a person drives tells a lot about a person. A '69 Corvette is, again, more the muscle car, more of the attitude. And a subtle touch like switching to the '69 Corvette is a big deal.
Another really great thing that I loved was the locations where we shot the bar scene. It made it so fun for me to come in on production day and see the backdrop. That was actually someone's basement with all of the just intricate detail pieces that were involved. It just put all the pieces of the puzzle together, and it made that location look authentic. That way we didn't have to actually go to a bar to film.
The way Shane shot it and the way that it was realized, it looks like an actual bar. You wouldn't ever be able to tell the difference between the patrons and the lighting and the mood. I love how that looked.
I just met Zach, and we're doing the bar scene. I'm sitting there, so I'm just kind of goofing, you know, there's like smoke all around and stuff like that. And I don't really know Zach hardly at all. Got some women problems?
Who doesn't?
I know what you mean. One good woman's a dead woman. So I'm just like acting a fool. I'm sitting on the bar stool beside him, and I'm like, I said something silly like, so what brings you into a place like this or something? I was trying to make conversation. A little overdressed to be in this dive.
You know, man, it's all the same to you. I don't know you, so I just sit here and enjoy my drink.
And he was like, turns around, he's like, dude, I don't want to talk to you. I mean, the cameras weren't even on around. He was like, dude, I don't want to talk to you, or something like that. Like really, really mean. He never cracked a smile or anything. I was like, okay. But I mean, he was just completely in character. It was so funny. I mean, he wasn't really mean. It was just funny. It kind of threw me off.
That's such a cool place. The whole property, honestly, between the classic cars and the home bar and really the farmhouse with the lake and then the great creek that runs through the whole thing, out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, literally, I felt like I was nowhere.
Having the place, you know, full of people and the smoke and the atmosphere, it just felt so authentic to me and just felt so real. Really would like to know, like, how in the world he came across building all of this out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, he lives out in the boonies. We literally had a Hollywood setting in Summersville, Ohio, which, you know, most people would say, I don't even know where that is.
We shot the bottle breaking scene in a room inside one of Billy's barns, which was really kind of cool because he let us bust up bottles.
In my wilder days, we spent a lot of time in that very room.
The way we shot that, we actually shot that a ton of different ways. We experimented with breaking bottles like we were Mr. Wizard, trying to figure out the right velocity, the right angle to drop a bottle. I had to throw that table probably 7 or 8 times just to get it right, because when you have all those bottles on the table, you don't know how they're gonna fly, and one of them almost smacked Shane in the face. And he put a little plastic screen in front of his camera so we wouldn't screw up his camera. To stay angry during all that while trying to fling this table around, it got progressively harder and harder because, number one, I don't know if you ever have, but throwing a table full of empty glass bottles is ridiculously fun. And to try to be angry while I'm doing it was sort of a weird thing. My character looks genuinely angry, especially when you're doing it in slow motion. I think that was a huge decision to make, and it looked fantastic. So that scene just ended up getting put together really, really well. But personally, I think it was fun for everybody to kind of fool around with it and kind of do more of the physical stuff.
To me, the entire production is very powerful. I mean, it's definitely a very serious subject matter, serious story. I think the most powerful shots that we got were definitely involving our lead, Zach, when Zach is slumped over a table with just bottles and bottles of booze around. He's in a dark room, there's a TV with static in the background. You just get this sense of, wow, he's really hit rock bottom.
To have that moment of clarity toward the end, and to throw the table, and to get rid of the alcohol, decide to go to church and try to get his life straight, that's a huge redemption story. It almost draws a lot of parallels to The Prodigal Son.
You can see, you know, the camera movement is just so shaky and jittery. It really puts you in that moment and makes you feel very uneasy about that scene. He's so frustrated with the life that he's living and the things that he's struggling with. Throwing the table, that to me was the most powerful part. He was done.
So instead of going back to a father, this prodigal son was a prodigal husband and a prodigal father that was going back to try to patch things up with his family. And because of the great decisions that he made at the end, he got back together with them. And I think that's a really powerful message, just so that you're never so far gone that you can't come back and try to make things right. There's always an opportunity.
So not only do we have this amazing storyline, but also we utilized putting the band in the film as well, more of a live performance setting. And that was great because it's very rare that I get to see all of them at the same time and hang out with them. So for me, that was a lot of fun. They're all, you know, just so laid back and just so easy to work with. They enjoy what they do.
It was just a lot of fun. It was fun having Shane put the camera right in our faces.
It was really cool too because the location we were at, they were so flexible.
We actually shot at Pizzanello's Pizza in Franklin on the 3rd floor. They have a great dining room, ballroom kind of area.
The perfect setting, all the colors of the interior of the room where we recorded the video matched the colors of the drums, when I really liked that idea well.
And we were able to utilize that space very, very well. The lights were timed to the beat so that they were flashing and moving, and that just added so much to the production value. I think that we did a really great job of mixing the storyline with the band and really interconnecting them to the song and how they are expressing the song.
Shane is one of my favorite people in the whole world. Certainly one of the most talented people I've ever met behind the camera. The man just has a gift.
Shane makes everything understandably easy. He tells you what's happening. His character is just great and easy to work for.
He gave confidence to all of the people who were acting, as well as myself as I was trying to visualize how we were going to do different scenes.
When you have lots of footage to work with and you have a certain expectation of, okay, you know, here's your script you're working with, and here's the song, and here's all the shots that you have, but you only have a certain amount of time to fit all those pieces of the puzzle together. It was a very surprising challenge for me, and being able to sit back and see that end product and really say, wow, this came together exactly how we wanted it to. And I just feel that that's where God comes into play, and he is able to really help put that story together.
The church scene at the end, the redemption scene is what I like to call it. Being in that role and being that person was pretty difficult.
The opening is really heavy. Grant comes into the church and he's just in a spectacular amount of emotional turmoil and pain. And it was really interesting to watch him work that up and then nail it on camera. And then after we did the rest of the scene, which kind of involved a lifting of that from him and a prayer time and me sharing some scripture with him, we asked him to do it again. And he was taken a little back by that. But he said, give me a minute. And he took a drink of water and he sat there for just a few seconds. And then he said, okay, I'm good. And he nailed it.
He seeks refuge at a church and talks with a pastor, and we see him go to his family and show that commitment, show that he's ready to really make a change in his life.
I kind of like that scene where the Bible's open and the two of us are sitting on the pew. I really enjoyed being a part of that.
I guess there were three that were mainly the most challenging. The first one we shot was the happy scene at the church, where I'm with my family and we're all kind of praising and worshiping. Personal confession for myself is I am not personally a Christian. I enjoyed doing the role and I enjoyed the idea of redemption. I think that's fantastic, and I hope it does change a lot of lives. But hopping into the role of that person, it was a personal, for me personally, it was an interesting experience to kind of capture what isn't always there and to have that genuine experience and to hop into that role. It was a little life-changing for me, really, to experience that. And then the final scene where we all come back together at the end, there is a genuineness there that really didn't have so much to do with me as it had to do with them. My role in that scene is not nearly as important as theirs because I'm the guy that's just asking to come back. They have to portray an emotion like they want me back. And I have to tip my hat to both of them. It felt good and it felt real in that moment.
Knowing that these people were going to get themselves together, they were going to pull through this, and I was kind of anticipating seeing that part of the video.
It's a dark story, yes, but it has a very happy message.
This guy went through it, and he put her through. At the end, you know, he's standing there, and he's just like, okay, I'm done with that. This is what matters, me and this kid here. You know, this is what matters to me, not this other stuff.
People are broken, and there's only one real way to come back from such things, and that's through a relationship with Christ.
If I could sum this up in one word, what you should take away from this story, it would be purpose.
I think the message is restoration, forgiveness, mercy, hope. God is right there waiting for us to come back.
It has a very bright message. It has a very hopeful message that no matter where you've been in life, no matter what you've done, it's never ever too late to make a change. It's never too late to redeem yourself. And to see what my character goes through and the depths that he sinks to and to see what he becomes and what he ends up gaining, his family back, his love back. That's such a huge encouragement to other people to turn their life around, to get themselves into a better place, because if that character can do it after what he lost, then it gives people hope that they can do it themselves. And so redemption is a huge, redemption and hope. I'm hoping that there's someone out there, if there's only one person out there that's going through some struggles in their life and they see this, and it gives them hope and it gives them encouragement to turn their life around and become a better person, become a better father, a better husband, a better son, then it's been completely worth it. And that's something that I will never stop being honored to be a part of. What a great message and what a great story to give to people.